to stay with us now. Queen, It's a Kind of Magic has once again returned to the Joburg Theatre from January the 14th to February the 7th. That's this year, not next year. It was last performed in Johannesburg in 2009 to sold-out audiences. The show is the theatrical creation of the very best of Queen live in concert, delivering the whole Queen experience. The production includes more than 20 original Queen hits. Joining me now in studio is producer-director John van Grinsven. I'm trying to say it right. And Giles Taylor, who plays the lead of Freddie Mercury. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me.
Good morning. Yeah.
Giles, Freddie Mercury is an iconic frontman to probably, arguably, the greatest rock band in the world.
Indeed.
They've done absolutely everything, the things that you see modern day, albums, hits. Just how intimidating is it being Freddie Mercury?
Incredibly. Being a singer and being a musician, it's one of those names that is literally a household name. Everyone knows who he is. And he's someone who musicians idolize, whether they are fans or not. You have to appreciate what he's done, because his career has been incredible. The work he's done with Queen is mind-blowing. Like you say, literally one of the biggest rock bands ever to have been. And certainly one of the best singers, arguably, in the pop rock genre, without question.
Yeah.
So it's a very intimidating role. It's a very high bar that's been set.
That intimidation, does it lend its way into production to make sure that for those, like I grew up with Queen, my dad was a Queen fan. I think at some point he might have owned a jacket or two, but he never shared it with the family. Is it intimidating when you put on something that we all know? We know the songs.
I think
we
so.
know every gesture of Freddie Mercury. We understand the music and what it meant for an entire generation and the offspring.
We were lucky. We had as support of Peter Freestone, who was Freddie Mercury's personal assistant, best friend. He was with Freddie right up to the day he passed. He was actually with Freddie when he passed away. So he helped us to, get to all those idiosyncrasies of Freddie and tell us about his way he performed and his shock factors that he put into any show, and that helped us create what is it has been named as the best tribute to Queen in the world.
Sold out audiences. I mean, this is insane, and it keeps on coming back. What is it about the show, Giles, that South Africans absolutely love? We love it.
I think the same across the world. It's just good music. Good music is timeless, and it is the best rock music that's out there. And when you consider this goes back to like the arguably early 70s, right up until his death in 1991, they were just churning out hit after hit after hit. And it was great. I think one of the key factors is that you basically had 4 musicians and 4 songwriters in the band, as opposed to just having one person who wrote the songs. And, you can only write so many songs in a career.
I want to ask you this because you're a performer, you're an actor, you're all of those things, but then you play this role. You go on stage every night. Freddie Mercury had a voice that you can only describe was a weapon. He had every living thing in his arsenal. Most artists today struggle just to have one element. He had everything. When it comes to doing the songs or those little nuances, just how difficult is it? Because you make it look like it's effortless.
I think part of the trick is making it look as though it's effortless. I can assure you it's not. It is very hard, but we spend a lot of time in rehearsals and a lot of time in pre-production before we even put the show on the road.
That's my next question.
Making sure that we had everything perfect. It's not the kind of tribute that you can do half-assed. You have to go in and it has to be spot on.
Yeah. That pre-production and the stuff that Giles is talking about, I mean, that pre-production is absolutely every little thing that will enhance the experience of the audience go.
And Freddie is just one part of the show. The Brian May character is just as important. And so is the Roger Taylor, so is the John Deacon. And we've got 4 amazing musicians on the stage that create what is a great show. And and we're lucky enough even to have in the show one South African who tours the show. He's our bass player, Steve Dennett, and he is so it's a great privilege to have somebody for him to come home and perform after touring the world. So, but it is a lot of work. But 4 great musicians can make a great show.
2009 was sold out audiences. It's back at the Joburg Theatre. For anybody who hasn't seen this, I don't know where they've been, but if anybody hasn't seen this, what are you going to experience? Because we want audiences to come.
Yeah, and we just finished Cape Town and Durban, and again, sold out audience, sold out every again. Wow. There was no seats available at the end of the season. You couldn't get a seat. Then try and buy them on eBay and so forth is about the only way you could get them. And it's going to be the same here. What they're going to expect, you got to go down at night when you got to close your eyes and you think you're in a Queen concert, and by the time you leave, you got to say, "I've just seen Queen live," and that's what people leave thinking. So, and then we've done our job.
Giles, you've done so many other stuff. Yeah, what is it just about this production that that thing resonates with you, that it so strongly attracts you to it?
I think for me, first and foremost, I've always been a classic rock fan, so to be able to perform these great tunes is wonderful. Secondly, it's an amazing challenge to try and fill the shoes of Freddie Mercury, and it's one which I relish. It's great. And on top of that, it's so much fun. We've got an amazing show, huge light show, big LED walls, ridiculous costumes. It is everything that Queen was. It's great, and it's wonderful fun for both myself and the audience.
Yeah, you talked a little bit earlier about the other characters too, because they're iconic characters too, like the Brian Mays and stuff like that. How do you... Maybe it's a very a strange question to ask, but how do you make sure that kind of magic travels through each performance? Because I can only imagine with a live audience, it's technically maybe the same show, but it's actually not the same show because it's a different audience.
We always talk about this, when we see the crowd coming, they all are an older crowd tonight, but 5 minutes into the show, Giles takes his jacket off, and we give them we give them a little bit of Freddie magic, We invite them into the show, and it's not the show and them. But 5 minutes into the show, we make sure it's us as a show, and that's what happens in a good performance. You make the audience become one with you, and then basically the next 2 hours we're a team, and it's just a great night out.
What is the song that gets the biggest reaction, Giles? I mean, we talked about that hit after hit after hit, but the one where... have you ever had that moment on stage where you keep quiet and the audience just completely takes over? What is that magical song in the performance that you, every night after night, it gets the same, whether it's emotional reaction or vocal reaction?
I think for me, probably Fat Bottom Girls is probably the one that gets the biggest response, and it's the one that stays in the set all over the world, because we change our sets depending on what country or what continent we're playing on, depending what were hits and what weren't in those countries, but that's always in there. It's probably the one that if they're not up on their feet by that point, then that's the clincher. You usually have them by then. This is interesting, because I think you may be one of the few people in the world that can maybe answer this question. How was Freddie Mercury perceived around the world? Because I think, was it the same in every country, or is it like Giles was saying, depending on which country you're going, it's a different hit?
I think Freddie is an iconic character anywhere in the world, and loved and missed around the world, and I think there's probably 5 or 6 songs that everyone knows. We Are the
Bohemian
Champions.
Rhapsody is one of them.
Bohemian Rhapsody, of course. And that's in the finale. But there's songs like that we do in the show, which are little obscure ones, but people love as well. Killer Queen, for example, Play the Game, those sort of songs. But everywhere you go, everyone knows these 20 of Queen shows, and it's quite amazing. People come out after the show and say, I didn't realise I knew all these songs. And they know every one of them. They just sing along and they get up and dance and sing. It's a concert. We're in a theatre, but it's a concert. We say to people, listen, get up, sing, dance, have a good time. You're not going to sit in your chair. This is where it might be in a theatre, but this is a stadium show tonight. We're going to give you the big experience that was Queen.
Awesome. Hopefully nobody's taken their clothes off.
Not yet.
Got close. Got close.
Okay, that's director, producer John van Grinsven and Giles Taylor, who plays Freddie Mercury. It's on at the Joburg Theatre, January the 14th to February the 7th, 2016. John, very quickly, is there still tickets available?
Yes, tickets from the Joburg Theatre box office.
Okay, go and get your tickets. Take your friends, your family, and your enemies. It's one of those kind of performances. We go to an ad break. Don't get it.